Coming up on PrimeTime League, we check out highlights from around the world, wiretap pros with a mic check, peruse the penta, and get a little fantastic. Secure anything that isn't locked down, because PrimeTime League starts right now.
Oh, the flash hook! They got him! Shao goes down. That was beautiful. Here goes the Nexus in Jatt and Riv. What an abrupt victory.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to PrimeTime League, the only source for League of Legends pro play from around the world that is hardwired into Summoner's Rift. I am Rivington Bislam III, and here with my co-captain Joshua Jatt Leesman, and we're starting off today's show with the most recent news in the league scene. Alberto Crumbs Rengifo is stepping down from Dignitas. Crumbs announced on Monday night via video that he will no longer be the jungler and captain for Team Dignitas.
Today I'm stepping down from the Dignitas roster. When I signed on this split, it was as captain, and that came with a lot more responsibilities, both in the game as well as outside of it. And as a captain, you have to be able to lead your team, and they have to be able to follow. I was not the best leader, and I did not get much following.
I'm all the way in.
Yeah, Crumbs actually went on for some 14 to 15 minutes about the struggles he was having on Dignitas. But if we just take a bit of a retrospective, I mean, Crumbs has had such a long and successful career. I remember back to the 2014 summer split, where I thought he was the best jungler in North America. Dignitas started that split 12-2. But then it really just started the beginning of a downward spiral. He went 2-12 with Dignitas for the end of that split. He then became the captain of Dignitas, but they opened the season so abysmally. And watching that video, you could really feel the internal struggles and the hopelessness that Crumbs felt within that team. And I've actually experienced this on competitive teams in the past, whether it be directed at me or directed at a teammate, where you're not playing well. You know this. But when your teammates lose trust in you, you can't get yourself out of that hole, especially as a leader and a shot caller, which is the situation that Crumbs was in. Because if he wants to make a call and he wants to improve his calls, if no one is following those calls, even if he did improve them, no one would notice. And without a coach in the Dignitas house that they are happy with, it was a hopeless situation for Crumbs, and you can see why he stepped down. As far as his future goes, I think Crumbs is a player with a ton of game knowledge. Whether he decides to eventually be a coach, whether he finds a challenger team as a player, or whether any NALCS teams want to take a shot at someone with a huge amount of game knowledge and a large amount of competitive experience. As Crumbs mentioned in this video, and as I can back up here, he is not going to be done in League of Legends scene, because that's a hell of a player.
Well, hopefully Dignitas can fill that void that he leaves behind soon. Now we're going to shift our focus over to China's LPL and OMG in particular. They came into last week's BF Game of the Week in first place, flaunting a perfect 5-0 match record. But standing in their way was second place Team Snake, ready to sink their fangs into the lead, even as their mid laner Baka played with a fractured elbow.
Yeah.
I cringe when I say that every time. It didn't really seem to stop them. 5 minutes in, they already are doing a 5-man gank on mid lane.
Yeah, this was a really lane swap heavy game early, and Snake picked up so many kills onto Crystal's Tristana and had the team comp to back it out. They actually stalled a little bit in the mid game just so he could farm more, and it looked a little iffy until you realized how farmed Crystal actually was.
Yeah, you're starting to hear that name more and more. Crystal here, Crystal there. More plays for the team, showing their strength in these fights as they pretty much close out the game 1 versus OMG here with this scattered one back and forth.
Yeah, a wild turtle-esque play there. Jumps back. Wait, I should have been in there the whole time. Tries to duel Uzi, who, by the way, wasn't given up without a fight.
Nope.
5-0-2 with 483 CS before that last death, but it wasn't quite enough. OMG suffers their first game loss of the season.
And on to game 2, Snake continued with the same aggression. This time, OMG had it calculated, though.
Yeah, cool, just enough damage on the backside of that one, and a nice counter-engaged teleport there from going, not to mention the support roam that comes in at the very last second for the shield. This was the beginning of the end for Snake in game 2.
Yeah, plays like this just continued to happen and opened up opportunities like this. Crystal tries to get away, but the fish just in time.
Nope. As soon as the shark comes up after he'd clicked the lantern, it cancels it. Bad timing from Crystal. He'd actually taken a shark into the team in another fight when he took a lantern. Just not a great game for him. The only highlight was his defense of the Nexus here.
He kind of has the last word, but then still goes down. A nice shot with a static shiv proc on it. He does what he can, but OMG goes on to pick up that second game. Now we move on to OMG versus Master 3, who is really trying to pick themselves up in the standings from 6th here.
Yeah, and the question was, if OMG dropped one game against Snake, maybe they would drop more games against M3 because people have criticized their sloppy, sometimes arrogant play because they have so much talent. Game 1 looked pretty crisp.
Crisp indeed, actually leading to an overall surrender because Leveling was going crazy the entire game. Everybody really participated in this one, and they just had a fantastic game. This was pretty much the final push on the next one.
A total slaughter, 7-0-10 on both solo laners, yet it was the jungler who seemed to be making most of the action happening. Great game 1.
OMG's in first place for a reason. We see more plays to the bottom lane. Uzi gets himself back and forth, and you're wondering what's going to happen to him. He gets himself back in flash.
Yeah.
And lives in this fight.
That was a 4-man game.
Yes.
And Uzi picked up 1 kill. That's actually very critical because it gave him a few more items. Look, his Infinity Edge and Zeal are completed for this fight, where just watch Uzi. It's not necessarily a fight they should have won. This game was very close.
He's going to go down. He's going to do all the damage he can, and he lives throughout this one, dealing quite a bit of damage, able to stay on the back line, and Looper, the rest of the team, just tries to push on through. Not going to work too well.
Yeah, but as Uzi picked up a quadra kill in this fight, you could see a hair away from getting a penta there on Caitlyn. He got very farmed. OMG capitalized on that for gold lead and then finds this fight at the end.
Some amazing AD carries in China right now, and Uzi really sits at the top of that list. Him and the rest of the team going hard on this one, and they're able to finalize the second game in just the same amount of time. And to help us break down OMG's continued dominance of the LPL, let's bring in that tasty treat from an auxiliary location down under while a new studio is being finished up for the premiere of the Oceanic Pro League. How's it going, Pastry Time?
Yeah, super awesome, Riven. Very happy to announce that the OPL will be premiering tonight, but we also have a very full LPL schedule as well.
LPL indeed. Let's start at the top of the LPL table, where OMG has owned first place all season long. Did Snake expose a vulnerability on a team that has dominated the league so far?
I mean, to be honest, in that matchup, I feel like there was more Snake playing well than OMG playing particularly badly. Snake had a really creative 4-man proxy at 3 minutes behind a tier 1 tower to actually get ahead in that game. Just played the early game really intelligently and used their strong teamwork that we've seen to actually dominate that first game and eventually pull out a win. The second game, though, much more one-sided, and OMG, in true OMG style, just try-carry, smash through them.
Now, we obviously have seen that Snake is a strong team. So what's your take on the players?
I mean, the players are just fantastic, and the team as a whole are excellent. People may be wondering, how good is this team really? You know, they're a young LSBL team. Everyone knows about the top lane of Flandre, the super carry there from the top. Their Korean jungler Beast and support Ella, who are unknown as far as the big Korean names that play in China, are looking fantastic. And their mid laner Bucker continues to play with an injury, although when he doesn't get Xerath, it does look a bit awkward. But for me, the highlight is all about Crystal and his Draven. That AD carry is an absolute monster. He's been double penta-killing people in single games. He's been getting kills and flashing in 1v4, initiating team fights. He's playing just on these hyper carries. He's playing aggressively into Sivir. This man just does it all, and this is a region full of incredibly strong AD carry players.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Pastry Time. We look forward to seeing more of you in the OPL and when the LPL's Week 4 kicks off.
Cheers, sir.
But looking back to Week 3 of the LPL, Snake had a tough schedule. Not only did they face first place OMG, they also had to tussle with third place LGD. And LGD was going to make sure that this was not an easy game for Snake.
Yeah, LGD, one of those teams with the most off-season acquisitions, 3 Korean players on their total roster.
Yeah.
They can only play 2. But yeah, this game was all about the jungler control LGD had onto Beast.
Very strong one. A tough game for Snake here. Beast Kale not really panning out, and Imp was just solo killing Crystal whenever he had the chance.
Yeah, Imp, Wayless, all strong performance. I love the Xerath pick away by Wayless here. That's normally what Baka has been destroying people on. And Flandre, on a less mobile champion as Rumble, could not make up for some missed positions.
And that was pretty much the story of the game. You can see how strong LGD is in these catches, and they would just continue that story throughout. Hopping into game 2, TBQ looked to get a little sneaky here, but a little too greedy, actually.
And check out the play from Beast, jumping over, knowing that the Dragon is a sure thing, so he doesn't actually shoot for the Rengar, gets into the pit. The knockback allows Ella to help collapse for the kill. Really nice punish of the counter jungle there.
Kill secured by the support, of course. This was actually quite a back and forth game. Both teams throwing punches as often as they could, but Snake was finding the kills on the right players.
And I have to say, Flames Lissandra was pretty underwhelming this game. Crystal was running all over the place on Draven, which Lissandra should normally be able to punish. but it just didn't seem like Flame could get in the right position to initiate the good fights for LGD.
And just 13 minutes later, LGD here going for broke with this engage in the mid lane, but not even Flame can survive through Frozen Tomb and Zanya's.
Snake had a lot better team play. You could actually see a weird combination of a Lulu ultimate onto a Zanya Lysandra. You don't use those skills. She's already invulnerable. Why give her more invulnerable health? But Snake looked strong as a team there to come back after a tough stomping in game 1.
Like Pacer just said, it's definitely a team to watch out for. So let's take a look at the LPL standings after 3 weeks of matches. OMG remains at the top after splitting a series with Snake and sweeping Master 3.
And after going 2-0 against both Invictus Gaming and Starhorn Royal Club, Edward Gaming has bounced into that second place, which pushes Snake into third and LGD into fourth.
And as the teams pummel each other on the Rift, we always enjoy dropping in on the comms for a listen.
Yes, we do. So prepare your ears for the sounds of the game that you don't normally get to hear. It's time for Mic Check.
Making my way downtown, making my way into the lobby.
If we go 2-0, I'm buying new shoes.
Buy
Go
what?
1.
I think you should buy new shoes anyway.
I think so too. Honestly, you need new shoes.
No, dude, it's gonna go in the montage thing after.
Nope. Nah, they don't show
no
coaches. No. Nah. You're you're over exaggerating. Nah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You're the star player of our team.
Impaler.
It's not Chris with his massive 43 KDA. He's the Cali Trolls of our team.
Back off. Keep backing off. Just gonna get out.
I can ulti. I have volume.
Right there.
Yeah, baby!
Kill him. Get him up. Get him up.
Nice.
Nice.
What?
Holy shit.
Oh my god, shit.
What happened?
I don't know. He ulted backwards. They're probably cheering because he did. Nice try.
Best flash.
Blink, don't die! Blink, I got you!
I got it.
It is.
Trash. Gnar.
I killed Tristana.
No block! Care. Down.
Let's end.
Nice!
We won that, guys. We won that. Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of hype.
Yeah.
That's like I challenge any team to hype that much in a game.
Yeah, for the fourth game of the regular season, but they're hyped to be doing so well because they had such low expectations coming into the year.
They are. Cali Trolls is hype, taking his hands off the keyboard for his
He
ult.
could have done so much more in that Malphite.
He did stay alive for a little bit longer. During last week's PTL, Shox proclaimed that SK Gaming were contenders and not pretenders. SK continued to prove her right during last week's games. First up, the undefeated SK Gaming took on a struggling Gambit, who found themselves at the bottom of the standings, which is very weird to say for Gambit.
It really was, and they were behind so much of the laning phase here, getting shoved in left and right. Finally, they just try and get a kill, which they do.
Yep, and according to Style, Edward picking up that kill. First and second blood, but it didn't go that well the whole time. SK was able to bait them into fights like this and get forgiven.
Yeah, the thing about this game is Gambit just had no lane pressure or overall map pressure, so every time they were going into fights, they were actually walking into disadvantages. Even though the kill score was super close, it was a 6,000 gold lead headed into this dragon fight, and Forgiven could just free hit for most of it.
He calls himself the best. He's putting up the stats so far. Somebody else is going to have to put him down. Great positioning, the team helping to peel there, and he really avoided quite a bit in this one.
Yeah, always staying on the very brink of death, but never quite dying. You could see his CS was huge at this point, and this finish was rather impressive. Nick thought he had a kill. He was wrong.
Nope. Forgiven had one in the chamber, and he let it go. They were going to push on to the Nexus just a little bit later. 4 Dragons here, 14 kills, and a 20,000 gold lead. Made that one, seal the deal.
Super dominating performance. And when was SK going to get tested? Maybe the Unicorns of Love. Such hype coming into the year for this team.
Maybe the Unicorns of Love could do it. They focused a bit on the top lane, and Freddy's Cannon pick here, which actually had a big impact.
Yeah, Riv, I remember you were super excited when you saw this one walked into the office, and it was no surprises from SK after the Cannon pick because it was Svenskeren, Freddy, the synergy coming in on full display this time, actually.
Yeah, and you'd say, wait, but where's Svenskeren?
Yeah.
And he's just on the wings, waiting. Freddy's
Here he comes.
just about to go down. but
Yeah,
he gets
surely
saved.
he's going to... Never mind. Svenskeren flash for the knock-up, turns it around. That got Freddy pretty far ahead. And Vardegs, he was dead before this fight began.
Yeah.
Again, because of the synergy.
Great job cutting into the side of the team there by Freddy. They played off a quick mistake on Kikis going hard, and these little fights were all they needed to keep that snowball going.
Yeah, another really decisive victory. You can see, again, 4 dragons on the board
That's
for
crazy.
SK and 0 deaths for Forgiven.
Can't take the dragons, can't kill their AD carry. It's going to be tough to
can't beat
take
'em.
those guys off the top of the standings. And let's pull up the standings right now for the European LCS. It is Fnatic and SK Gaming. The 2 teams at the top and the ones to beat right now, they are tied for first at 4-0.
But Elements are right behind them with just a single loss, and they'll hope to challenge SK when they play this Friday in our BF Game of the Week. Meanwhile, Giants are looking like pretenders here as they lost both matches last week and tumbled into a 3-way tie for 4th with H2K and Unicorns of Love.
And now let's bring on a man who is definitely no pretender when it comes to calling the action in the European LCS. How you doing, Quick Shot?
I'm doing fantastic, Riv. Really enjoying the first few weeks of the LCS.
Well, glad to have you back on PTL. With SK Gaming currently riding high after a pair of decisive wins, are they Europe's power team?
Yeah, I definitely think that they are. SK Gaming is one of the most dominant teams in Europe, and it's because of their teamwork. If you look at how these 5 players are working together, they're making the right decisions, they are playing the map correctly, they're using vision effectively, and it's giving them fantastic stats. They've got a 7.5 team KDA, nearly 360 GPM across all 5 roles. You've got Forgiven that's gone unkilled thanks to the support in the front line he's getting from Svenskeren and Freddy. And something that I love, this team has given up 1 dragon across 4 games. Only 1 dragon, and that was because they secured a Baron and then ended up pushing on to win the game. There is one crutch, though. They haven't faced the likes of Fnatic or Elements, who I feel are going to give them a much tougher challenge in the regular split.
So speaking of that game, you think their first real test when they face off against Elements in our BF Game of the Week will be the one to really put them against the ropes?
Yes, I completely agree with you, Rivington. I think that Elements is going to be one of the few teams that has a skill cap that is equal, if not higher, than SK Gaming. And what Elements need to do is settle themselves down. They've not looked particularly convincing or particularly confident in several of their games. Think of that nearly hour epic against Roccat. And you've got to add to the fact that there's some political intrigue going on in the team. Reckless was a little outspoken, saying the mindset of the team is not really what he was expecting. So if Elements can actually get their play together, they're going to put on a good fight against SK. And for SK, it's going to be living up to the hype, living up to the expectation of going a potential 6-0 in the first 3 weeks.
Well, so far, so good for them there. The other team sitting at the top of the table after 2 weeks is Fnatic. What's your take on this young team?
Riv, this is the hardest question because I really don't know. In my mind, Fnatic is playing very one-dimensionally. They've only run 2 different team comps and, 2 champions per role all the way down the line, and they're all centered around finding picks, getting kills, and then they'll push objectives. They've been relatively smart in pushing the map, but they've not played the map. They've not unleashed Febiven to split push on his Z. So I feel that Fnatic, while they are playing well, they've not demonstrated enough diversity in their play or their tactics to surprise anybody or to convince me that they deserve to be at the top. But 2 more games, and we'll see if they can change things up.
All right, thank you very much, Quick Shot. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, our time.
Now it's time to empty the Twitter bag and see who managed to give us the right answer to last week's question. Which player earned the highest KDA in their first week during the LCS? The answer is actually Fnatic's new AD carry Steelback. 37 KDA, 0 deaths, immaculate performance from this player, and of course, he's the winner and the answer to our question. Get your pause button ready. 122 of you nailed the right answer, and of course, a lot of names are scrolling down. Many of you guys incorrectly guessed Meteos. He was actually only 3rd place. Cloud9, of course, could use a lot of that optimism right now, but unfortunately, not a great start for them. Creatine was actually number 2 in his start-out performance. High 20s for his KDA. But let's turn the power of tweets to another player who has had an undying performance so far, and that is SK Gaming's Greek AD carry Forgiven. 18 kills, 25 assists, 0 deaths. He's got Reckless-style numbers, but if you ask the man himself, there is no comparison to that player.
Final question, Iterated in an interview said that you were the best AD carry he ever played with. That's saying a lot, knowing that he played with the likes of Reckless. Do you feel right now that you have the most skill in all the bottom lanes?
By far.
by far. No follow-up, complete confidence. Of course, he is a very good player. Yesterday in an AMA, Uzi was asked who the best AD carry was, and he said Forgiven. For Europe, he kept, of course, the best AD carry title for himself, and Uzi, I can't complain, you're ridiculously good at League of Legends. But while Forgiven has been godlike on the Rift across 4 games, we want to ask you guys, when will his Guardian Angel run out? It's going to be a giant bounty, of course. That's right, we're putting him on Death Watch, so tweet us the week, the game, and the game time where you think Forgiven will bite the dust, and help us satisfy our morbid curiosity. Whoever sends the closest Death Watch prediction to @LOL Esports, along with the hashtag PTL, will be entered into the exclusive and prestigious PrimeTime League Hall of Fame. But answering this tweet isn't the only way you can gain entrance. If you manage to blast out an epic tweet during the week to @LOL Esports and hashtag PTL, you might become a Hall of Famer all the same. For instance, this pan-grammatic tweet from Winterfox after the victory over Dignitas is a perfect example. If only they had used the proper hashtag, they'd be in the hall. Sorry you guys missed out. But everyone consult your divining devices, and we're going to check your answers against Forgiven's first death certificate and see who gets to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, while I'm still driving the show, let's swing by and check in on PrimeTime League's Fantasy League of Legends Legendary League, where Forgiven might die when he sees my fantasy total from this week. Guys, look at this. I completely destroyed 347.5 points. I didn't even need Reckless in the roster to outscore Shox there. Thank you, SK Gaming and Fnatic, for doing all this work. Now, Imagine Dragons, you guys were asking what instruments I play. How about I toot my own horn? I'm amazing. After 2 weeks of competition, Xpeke and Snoopy are still undefeated, while the rest of us are trying to play catch-up. Snoopy faced Chris Cluey last week and tweeted, "Slaughtered a satanic Teemos. Hopefully Freak beats Peke next week so I can pull ahead." It's not even a question. Of course I'm going to win, Snoopy. I got your back, don't worry. Of course, I'm going to help him out. The PTL FL4 showdown between myself and Peke is going to be a whole bunch of fun. Every single member of Fnatic, including the team itself, is represented just in our 2 lineups. So even though he's gone from the roster, he is still being carried by the rest of the Fnatic team. I'm glad that some things never change. It's Peke. Now, let's check in and see how awesome I am. We've already done that. And remember, you can always get your own league going at fantasy.lolesports.com. Let's head over to Jatt for a look at the fantasy leaders.
You're 1-1 in the fantasy league. What's this all the trash talk? I really hope Xpeke wins here. Peke, we're all counting on you to shut Freak up and make him go 1-2. But anyway, he's done his fantasy thing. Let's check out next week's studs, duds from last week, sleepers and alerts for next week, so you can kind of hone your game. Last week as well, Reckless. Hey, if you had the first pick in your fantasy draft, you did it. You got the top point scorer. Congratulations. Next guy who had a lot of points, Froggen. That was a pretty good performance as well, really stepping it up from week 1. And then I'd say the biggest overperformer would be Yellowstar, because that's 56 points from the support position. The one member of Fnatic who stayed with the team, he's been doing an incredible job guiding the new players, and he picked up those 56 points as well. Obviously, when you have top performers, you got some underperformers. Duds, Werlieb, 1 point. He only got that 1 point because he died 11 times and got 0 kills. A big difference when he's not allowed to play Jax in that top lane for Giants. Another guy who had a big fall off in week 2 was Xpecial. He had such a great week 1 with a dominating Team Liquid performance, but everything seemed to go wrong for Team Liquid last week, especially their fantasy scores. 1.8 for Xpecial and 8.8 for Piglet, who didn't just have his fantasy points go wrong, he had his mastery pages go wrong, and overall the 0-2 record is not the way he wanted to enter the LCS. Anyway, we have to look at this week's sleepers, and it's going to be a little bit unconventional here because we're more looking at the opponents that Roccat is playing against, seeing that they are playing Giants and MYM, 2 teams that still seem to be in a fair amount of turmoil, should mean you feel safe about starting anyone from Rocket, including the team, and you're probably going to be in for a good performance. But we do have to keep in mind some of the last-minute changes. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Crumbs has stepped down from Dignitas, so obviously take him out of your fantasy roster. And if you're really dying for jungle, figure out who their next jungler is going to be. That'll be announced later in the week. Corey as well. He was gone from MYM at the start of the year. Now he's back. So if you're really a big Corey fan, make sure you start him in your fantasy league. So lock down your lineups with these alerts. Think about the sleepers and see where the points land next week.
Well, I've got some fantasy changing to do. Now let's take a look, a quick trip to the League of Legends Masters Series and see what's happening in Taiwan. Right now, the Taipei Assassins are dominating with an undefeated 7-0 match record, but hot on their heels are the second-placed Yowie Flash Wolves at 6-1. Just this past weekend, the Flash Wolves, featuring the Gamma Bears lineup from Worlds 2013 minus wins, beat TPA 3-2 in the IEM Taipei Grand Finals. So these could be the LMS teams to watch. Both TPA and the Wolves are followed closely by third-place Hong Kong Esports and fourth-place AHQ Esports. But with 6 weeks left in their spring split, anything can still happen. In fact, the LMS standings could change in just a couple of days. This Saturday, AHQ meets TPA on the Rift, no doubt hoping to hand the Assassins their first loss of the split. AHQ will also be looking for revenge after TPA handed them their first loss back in Week 1. And they will want some payback after being dominated by TPA in the Garena Premier League every split last year. The matchup will take place this Saturday at 5 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Central European Standard Time. So tune in to lolesports.com to see if TPA can hang on as king of the hill or if AHQ will start climbing. Now let's bring things back to North American shores as two teams threw things into reverse when 0-2 Cloud9 met 2-0 Team Liquid. And the debut of Piglet, trying to show what he could do with now the surging 2-0 Liquid.
It's a marquee matchup here. Piglet coming in, having to face up against Sneaky, one of the other top 80 carries in North America. The picks were Callista versus Sivir, and Sneaky got the best of this matchup.
Sneaky definitely got the best of this one. Kills starting from the beginning, then Piglet was the focus of this. They just did not make his return, or I should say debut, easy.
Yeah, it was a 40 CS lead at that point. It only grew afterwards. The troubling thing is, after the game, Piglet did realize he didn't have masteries.
Right? That's something you think you would realize as you get in the lane, you start attacking things, but there was just a lot more things for him to be focused on, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, Team Liquid struggled to find fights. Well, it did seem like they had a good initiation here onto high.
Yeah.
He did get to Lissandra ult himself and got out all of his damage, which left Sneaky for the cleanup.
And a lot of fans will remember Cloud9's team fighting looking like this, reassessing the fights, being able to control them. Even Sneaky's a little impressed.
Sneaky's saying things are going pretty well now. We're back on track, he thinks.
Back on track, indeed. They are going to take out the 2-0 Team Liquid and start to get themselves back on the board because Cloud9 fans were wondering as well. It looked a little shaky.
And by the end of the week, actually, Team Liquid, they'd fell to both Cloud9 and TSM. And after all the hoopla surrounding world champion Piglet leaving SKT and joining Team Liquid for Week 2, we have to talk about his troubling first appearance in the LCS. It's easy to write off that he forgot his masteries, therefore he lost to Sneaky, but the fact that he didn't realize until long after the game that he was masteryless in game kind of speaks to the pressure he was under during the match to not realize this thing. But a larger part of the story here, Piglet aside, is that Team Liquid did play bad. He is not the only reason they lost those 2 games. Yes, he was 0-4-3, which is an unimpressive KDA, but that actually speaks to not much action happening in the games. Team Liquid was not really involved or in winning positions here because team fights just weren't happening. A lot of it was Team Liquid just being out-rotated. Piglet, a part of that because he had such an underwhelming performance in his first laning phase, but it was the rotations and the overall team play that led to Team Liquid's downfall there.
And with CLG coming off a win over Team Impulse with a terrific Blitzcrank Callista combo, Cloud9 was hoping to pick up some momentum as they faced off on day 2. And everybody was hoping to see more of those combos from the bottom lane of Alphamu and Double.
Yeah, this was another big game here for Cloud9. Coming off that big win, everyone's thinking Cloud9 is back. CLG had something to say about that.
They did have something to say, and it seems like Cloud9's falter was from the mid lane, so that's where CLG kept going back for, even if he was in top.
Did we say this was a CLG versus Cloud9 highlight? Because it looks like an Afromu highlight reel to me.
He was hitting the blitz hooks, hitting the Morgana bindings in a critical fight, if you will, here for Double Lifted.
Yeah, Sneaky, the lone high point for them in this fight. He does everything he can to try and win this fight for them, but Double Lift had the RNGs on his side right there. So many crits, 3 in a row on Lemon Nation.
He did not expect that to happen. He was in a good spot, just didn't expect the damage. Balls would fall as well, and Counterlogic Gaming would just repeat this, rinse and repeat, fight after fight.
Yeah, they also had Dragon control throughout the entire game. Things normally Cloud9 would have control over, then Desperation struck and Cloud9 tried Baron, but Aspect of the Dragon came onto CLG, 4 people, and a whole bunch of bindings to finish this fight out.
It's so crazy. Double Lift getting Aspect of the Dragon by himself during the 4v5 just speaks to the control Counterlogic Gaming had here.
Such another binding at the end. And yeah, you're absolutely right. CLG looked incredibly strong in these Week 2 matchups.
Well, see if anybody can really put a stop to their wins. Let's pull up the North American standings, which look like a mirror right now. Holding down first and tied with CLG, Gravity, and TSM are all tied 3-1.
Yeah, and 4 teams are completely even at 2-2, while Cloud9, Coast, and Dignitas are in last place with 1 win and 3 losses each.
And now it's time for a science lesson from Professor Kobe as he takes us through the ups and downs of Gravity.
Thank you, Riv, and welcome to the Riot Laboratories. Now, as you know, we had an exciting set of LCS games last weekend that ended with CLG, TSM, and Gravity all tied for first place. However, something caught my eye that has me a bit more worried for Gravity's ability to hold on to their first place spot than the other 2 teams. You see, attention to detail is very important in League of Legends, and in their haste to create an LCS-approved logo, Team Gravity have actually created the flames for their shuttle backwards. Now, under standard conditions, during the combustion of a hydrocarbon fuel with sufficient oxygen, as you increase the temperature, the average frequency, as well as the amount of radiation, goes up. As you can see here, the lowest frequency, the red light, is actually what you get when you have the low temperature, and thus would be furthest away from the nozzle. As we go along the visual spectrum, then we get the oranges and the yellows, which are much higher frequency, that would be actually closer to where the nozzle is. Now, you may be thinking, Kobe, there are way more factors than just temperature that actually affect the color of a flame. And you are correct. Now, the composition of a fuel plays a huge part in the color as well. But even if you're suggesting to me that Team Gravity decided to add either calcium or lithium in order to produce a red flame, that still does not explain how they put yellow furthest away from the heat source. Just ridiculous here. But, Kobe, why in the hell are you even telling me all this in the first place? I said I was worried about Gravity for a reason. We already saw last week Team Liquid, lack of attention to detail, cost them their first spot as Piglet, of all people, a world champion. If he can forget something like his masteries, there's no telling what an old man like St. Vicious might forget. He's almost as old as I am. So I think it is up to you die-hard Gravity fans to take to your social medias and actually remind your players of anything that could possibly go wrong this weekend. Haunter, check your DPI. Bunny Fufu, do not accidentally change your screen resolution in-game. St. Vicious, remember to put your smite on F. What am I saying? You don't actually have to tell St. Vicious that last one. Just tell Cop to pick Callista again, and it won't matter what button his smite is on.
All right, thank you very much, Kobe. And last week in Korea, Jin Air Green Wings struggled against Incredible Miracle, who kept them out of second place. But 2 days later, they had a chance to redeem themselves when they found SKT T1 standing in their path in a tall task as well, SKT being towards the top.
Yeah, and you can see here Wolf getting caught out in the river. No gravity flames can save him to get away from this rocket ship the pilot comes flying in on. He is finished off. And that's going to be Jin Air taking a little bit of control.
Finished off indeed, and you thought it would end there, but GBM out of nowhere with the Flash Lissandra plays, and those would only continue.
Yeah, a lot of the initiation potential from Gank by Mom was a huge part in this.
Yeah.
3 kills early on for the Jin Air Green Wings, and in typical Jin Air Green Wings fashion, they draw this one out. Next fight's at 50 minutes.
Draw it out indeed. You can even see the lead. There's about 8,000 gold there, 10 kills. You should probably be able to put your foot down and end this one. But they do it very methodically, and they're able to get the win how they want it.
Yeah, surprising here that they were able to take down SKT T1 in game 1.
Yeah.
This was Easy Hoon's draft on Kassadin.
Right.
What's going to happen in the next game? Turns out it was another first pick Xerath for Faker.
Yeah, Faker not really worried about those first picks, but this game created one of my favorite highlights of the week here.
Yeah, GBM gets hit by a multitude of skill shots early on, but then as soon as he's on his deathbed, nothing touches him.
Time to put on the serious face here. He actually uses that last Spirit Rush to get away, and then Bangi is kind of caught wondering, thinking, man, I thought I was going to get that kill.
Jeez, and that was just the start of some bad things to come. Jarvan started 3-0. Later on, SKT tries to do Baron. It doesn't matter if they get it because Jin Air picks up the fight.
Yeah, 33 minutes in here. GBM gets out by the skin of his teeth, and you can see how antsy SKT was. You see Faker even flashing back in to get away from Gnar, at least solidify a kill, but nothing of it.
Yeah, triple kill for Pilot was a big turning point there. And then later in the game, Jin Air actually did pick up a Baron, and they get a catch.
Baroned up, obviously not going to stop fighting you once you're falling, and they made quick work of this game. A lot of people surprised the Jin Air Green Wing fans very happy.
And they look quite solid in these games. The thing about Jin Air is once they do get a lead, they do play very smart, controlled games to close out. It was tough for SKT after that one, getting 0-2 again.
Yep, very true. You can see some hugs there from the coaches as GBM did quite well against both Faker and Easy Hoon. But SKT would take to the Rift again, hoping to snuff out Samsung, who has been struggling a bit, but put up a fight.
This game was earlier this morning, and you expect SKT to come out with a resounding win over the bottom tier team in the LCK. But the game actually didn't start out that well. Marin getting surprised by a level 2 game.
Surprised indeed, and one of the few games that Faker actually starts in. They put him on Ezreal this time, and it does pretty much become the Faker show at one point.
Yeah, Wraith got pulled too far from home in that one. And yeah, the close game does get turned by some really nice plays by Faker's Ezreal. They were down in gold before this fight happened, even in turrets, but Faker got some gold under his belt and he took over.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. The plays can only be made even stronger once Faker gets gold, and they come out very strong with that Game 1 victory. Game 2, however, Samsung showing a lot of life.
Definitely showing fight. Bengi getting caught out. Or sorry, Bang getting caught out. Right there on Corki.
And we see still towards the top lane, SKT thought they kind of had control of the map, but that's where Samsung really started to get their advantages, is take SKT off guard.
Yeah, even when SKT has a big lead here by 7,000, they're still not quite together. This is not a team playing for SKT, but this Baron fight is the decider.
A big Baron fight indeed. Samsung trying to go in, and that's when you get the veterans of SKT, the smart top-tier play to be able to control a dangerous situation.
Yeah, what is it? There's no smite steals anymore. It's just the 80 carries picking up Baron again and again. But because of the resounding victory in that fight, the Easy Hoon-led SKT closes out that series for 2-0.
That's right, they do. And taking a look at the LCK standings, you can see that the GE Tigers still control first place with an unbeaten 5-0 match record.
But CJ Entus are right behind them at 4-1, with both Jin Air and SKT threatening to move up as well. And it should be a great matchup on Saturday when Jin Air takes on CJ Entus.
Now for a closer look at the Korean scene, let's send it over to our LCK correspondent, OGN's Chobra. What's happening, Chobra?
I'm doing pretty well, and a lot's been happening in the League of Legends scene, as usual here in Korea, Riv.
Of course, and first with that scene, I want to touch on, let's talk about SKT. How are they faring?
Well, you know, they're doing okay. You can't really fault them for their score so far. They're simply just not at the top as they used to be in Season 3. But when we talk about SKT, we always have to talk about Faker, their star mid laner. Now, recently, there was a big issue because Faker continued to yet again first pick Xerath without knowing the opponent's mid lane pick. This has been criticized time and time again by many analysts because of the number of hard counters against Xerath, and yet Faker's so far had success, so he tries to go with it again, and maybe it was to show up the opponent's mid laner, GBM. GBM a week before had a great first pick, blind pick Xerath game, won, and took a victory for the Jin Air Green Wing, so maybe Faker trying to prove a point here, but in return, GBM comes out with this Ahri to shut down Faker and close yet another win away from SKT. Now, SKT did get their feet back together here for their match against Samsung just yesterday, and they're doing all right. A big thing there, though, is that they started Faker this time. So far, they've always been starting Easy Hoon, but they start Faker, they get the first win. Now, with less pressure, they put Easy Hoon back in for Game 2, and looks to be a better plan.
And while SKT has been near the top of the Korean scene for the last couple of years, there's a new power team in Korea this year, GE Tigers. What's your take on this team?
The GE Tigers, I'll be honest, I still don't know how to read them, because for some reason, all these players that were on the GE Tigers in past teams that they've been on, they were pretty good, but not quite top material, except for Prey, their AD carry, and of course, Gorilla, most recently having gone to the World Championship last year. Now, even then, they didn't have the World Championship belt win, rather, under their belt, and at best, Prey had a Champions victory, but that was about it. But now coming in, these 5 players coming together, now they're a super powerhouse that no one seems to be able to beat. Smeb is still just the Gnar King in the top lane. We've got Kuro starting to show up and take those MVP points. Lee used to be criticized for his champion pool, but now he's flying all over the map. And Prey and Gorilla look like they're back in their prime in the bottom lane. I don't know if anyone's still ready to stop this train just yet here in Korea.
We'll have to see for sure. Now, on the other side of the table is an organization that had 2 teams in the semifinals at Worlds last year, Samsung. Why have they been struggling this year?
Well, the biggest thing is Samsung is no longer the same Samsung we used to know and love. All 5 players have been switched out. Now, these are all pretty much rookies, except for, of course, Wraith, who has been a support player previously on SKT and other teams before that. But even then, not too much main stage experience. I think the biggest thing here is that they don't have experience not only on the main stage, but also as a cohesive team. These guys are still learning to play with a team strategy, how to counter other teams, and how to really play against other teams and players who have specifically been training to go up against your team composition and trying to scout your picks out. I think once they get used to that, give them a season or 2, and then we'll really be able to see the potential of these 5 players.
All right, and finally, Chobra, I want to get your take on Najin, who started both OQ and Kane last week.
Yeah, as we talked about SKT earlier, I think it's the same thing with Najin. They've been criticized time and time again. Why are you not starting OQ and Kane, who clearly seem to be a stronger bottom lane? Najin finally decided maybe it's time we really give that a shot. They did it, and lo and behold, they get a nice easy win the first game, and then with that less pressure, they can put in Zephyr and Pure in game 2. Again, this is all thanks to the new system where we're allowing substitutes in between sets. This is giving the coaching staffs of all teams a lot more to think about. We're seeing SKT trying to adjust how they go about that system, and Najin now too. We'll see how they do in the next coming weeks. Will they continue to field OQ and Kane to try to relieve the pressure after that first game, or will they still experiment with Zephyr and Pure? Only time will tell.
All right, Troba, thank you very much. It's always great hearing from you. Now let's check out the plays that were so good even Forgiven would have been impressed.
I don't think Forgiven is ever impressed, although he will probably tell us that there isn't enough of him in here. It's the penta.
That's right. Coming in at number 5, GBM is sly as a fox as he dodges all of Faker's skill shots.
Again, GBM dodges it once more. Faker coming up to try to get another Q. He does hit the auto do it. He dodges the stun. GBM coming back in with a little bit of damage himself, but Faker, GBM dodges again. Bengi, the one who's low now, can Chaser come in for the kill? Yes, he can with the flash. Wow.
Great safety dance from GBM to dodge all of those Qs. He dodged the ult and then 2 Qs afterwards, even with Bengi coming in.
Number 4, it was Forgiven showing Faker how it's done.
Come in, Megadar stuns Yellow Star against the wall, but Overpower's got no support. We see the right of the Arcane, shots coming out, flash, boomerang blade, the third one gets a double kill. Forgiven, you are here.
See here, 2 very fast one, and now he wants Wooler to believe the last one is gone, and Wooler walks in to his own teammate, it's flying, double kill.
Oh, somebody give the observers a high five because that was awesome.
And at number 3, Crystal's Draven picks up a pentakill.
Easily going to be able to take that one down. Rookie's found his way into the backline, but he's dying so quickly. The Frozen Tomb to come on top of Crystal, but he manages to use his QSS. Crystal not going to be over the wall with a beautiful flash and manages to take down Kakao as well. And now all the members of Invictus Gaming are dying. Pokemon the only one alive, but he's flashing out of there. A quadra kill already here for Crystal as he's now trying to take down Pokemon. The wallop's there, the pentakill for Crystal.
Coming in at number 2, teammate executes the picture-perfect wombo.
That's going to be the Gnar ultimate into the tidal wave.
Where's the turn? Wait for the turn.
Beautiful ultimate. Where's the shockwave? It's only one person. There it is. The 4-man wombo combo. That's all they were looking for all game, but it was all the control that they needed.
And that's why they were waiting for it. Cali Trolls finally got the ball on. Impulse was way too grouped up. He did hit that one ultimate. We said that's all it was going to take.
And the number 1 play this week that certainly grabbed our attention, CLG going ballistic.
Keep missing. Oh, the flash hook! They got him! Shao goes down. That was beautiful.
The ballista play pulled off perfectly right there.
Hopefully we get to see more of those types of plays coming up all across the region.
All the pentakills happen in the LPL.
Yeah, right.
And then we get the Callista players in North America.
Good variety. I like it. Remember to send us your favorite pro player penta performances from across the globe by tweeting them to @LOL Esports with the hashtag #ThePenta. And that just about brings this episode of PrimeTime League to a close.
Almost, but not quite. There is just enough room for a little PJ Salt from Cyanide.
From the producers of Yo Kappa Callista and George the Depressed Frog comes Getting Salty with Cyanide.
And this week's MVP, Fnatic's reign over. And Cyanide, you had a lot of say in this. You think you really earned the title of MVP this one?
I don't actually know how this noob got it. So in the pre-game video, you said that there used to be a lot of handsome players in Fnatic. You mentioned Reckless and Xpeke. Is there any particular reason you didn't mention me? You picked Olaf when Lee Sin was open. Are you carrying on the proud tradition of Fnatic junglers sucking as Lee Sin?
New this Saturday, right after brand new episodes of Shots Fired.
You know, if you've got brains, you don't need to buy wards. You used to buy a lot of wards.